Full screen. Full screen. Full screen हो गया. Good morning, everyone. We are about to begin today's international webinar on Honing English Language Skills, Gateway to Success, organized by the Department of English of Dr. P. Dayanand Pai, P. Satish Pai, Government First Grade College, Mangalore, Castry. May I now request our principal, Professor Rajshekhar Hebbar, to deliver the welcome address.
A very warm welcome to all. Our college from Department of English, we are organizing a seminar on Honing English Language Skills, Gateway to Success. A topic which is very live and which suits to the need of the hour. We are in globalized world, and English is the only language which binds the whole country. It's more than 60% of the problems of any organization is attributed to communication. If communication is good, everything will be smooth and relationship will be fine. So such a wonderful topic is selected by our department, and I congratulate our department. And of course, it is my duty to welcome all the participants, dignitaries, and well-wishers, and also, most importantly, the resource persons. Today, I would like to welcome all the participants from India and abroad for joining this webinar. A cordial welcome to you, all of you. A special welcome to all the resource persons, Dr. Nelson D'Souza, Mr. Ronald Pinto, Mr. Abhilash K, Josna D'Souza, and Professor Nivedita Lobo. I extend a very special and heartily welcome to all of you. Then I would like to welcome Father Mr. D'Souza, Director, Professor Rio D'Souza, the Principal, and Professor Keith D'Souza from St. Joseph's Engineering College to this particular webinar. Once again, I welcome all of you to this webinar, and I hope that you will have a rewarding experience, and of course, you will get the value of the time that you have spent on this particular webinar. And I also thank the two professors, Navin Dias, Navin Augustine Dias, and Nivedita, for spending their valuable time in organizing this particular program. And also, I thank all those who have supported us and who are instrumental in organizing this particular program. Welcome to you all once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Before we start the sessions, on behalf of the English department, I wish to present before you the objectives of organizing this webinar. Our objectives are twofold. First, to create awareness among the younger generation about the importance of skill development, and secondly, to facilitate the development of these skills. In independent India, we saw the emergence of various committees, recommendations, policies, and guidelines stressing on skill development. However, where English language skills are concerned, we are yet to see any noticeable progress. Our effort, therefore, is to make the younger generation realize the importance of skills. Before we begin the first session, here are a few general instructions to all the participants. If you have any questions to the speaker, kindly type them in the chat box. At the end of the session, I will read them out to the speaker. Secondly, the link for tomorrow's session, rather the registration link for tomorrow's session, will be mailed to you around 2 p.m. today, Indian Standard Time. You will have to go through the same registration process that you did for today's webinar, and you will get a joining link. Tomorrow, the timing is between 2 to 4. Attending all sessions on both days and filling the feedback form are mandatory to receive the e-certificate. The feedback form will be mailed to you after tomorrow's session. Thank you. Let us begin the first session. The first session is on role of communication skills in career success. Our resource person is a seasoned leadership and talent development professional with a proven track record of over 2 decades in diverse industries and academia, spanning markets in developed and developing economies. He is a people developer with a strong desire to help people explore, expand, and excel in leading a fulfilling life. He is an associate at LCP Global, a leading strategic management consulting firm, and he also teaches postgraduate courses at Sydney Graduate School of Management, Australia. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. Nelson D'Souza. Over to you, Dr. D'Souza.
Thank you, Nivedita. And hello, everyone. It's my joy and privilege to share some of my experience gained over the last 3 decades working in different geographies. And special thanks to Department of English, Professor Navin Dias and his team, and the principal of the government first grade college, Mangalore, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience with you on the role of communication skills for career success. I have prepared a little agenda based on what I have seen in the corporate world, working with leaders, being the head of leadership development, and various other capacities around the world wherever I interacted and worked. So I'm going to share some facts, research based. Then I'll share with 4 core skills, and then toward the end we will have a conclusion and Q&A. In fact, communication as a topic, you might be knowing that we can spend a full year learning on this. And there are courses around the world where people learn various skills at different levels. If you can go to different levels, at different levels in the organization, you require different skills in communication. But what I'm going to touch today is, within the half an hour, what I have is that some of these core skills which are required by every person who is thinking of excelling in their career in the organization. So, before I go ahead, I would say the facts. Let me share some facts with you. Effective communication is strongly related to my PhD research and the research what I have done within the organization while I was working. And my informal research also has shown there is a strong relationship between effective communication and career progress. People who have progressed in organization also had effective communication skills. We listen only 125 words per minute, while our brain can utilize up to 3,000 words per minute during thinking. So our thoughts to processes much faster than what we really listen from people. We process images faster than words. That's why we always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we can only listen and store 7 bits of information at a single time. And this is something good music to the ears of Department of English team. English is spoken in 67 countries and 27 sovereign entities. And merge those developed world speak only English. Like here in Australia, we speak only English. You go to the butcher, you go to the hair salon, you go to the marketplace, or you go to anywhere, English is the only language which is spoken and understood by everyone. And so much so that if you want to live in Australia, the government says you need to know English. If you do not know English, probably it'll be hard to survive in Australia as well as many other countries in the developed world. This another piece of research I found while I was preparing for this by Dr. Pandey and Pandey in 2014. It says enhanced communication skills in English can better job opportunities. From job interviews to actual professional world, communication skills are very crucial, and being proficient in English means being able to communicate clearly and effectively. That is directly linked to the overall theme or the topic of the today's seminar. So moving on. So this research makes it very important, gives us a backdrop and a foundation that is very important for us to pursue communication and build our communication skills. So what are the core skills? The 4 core skills are speaking, listening, writing, and reading. We must have heard this several times in our lifetime. Now, that these are important, but how does it really resonate in an organization? How does it really come to surface, and how does it really push a person's career or progress? Let's see from going in detail of it. So speaking is concerned, all know to speak, maybe mother tongue or maybe any other language what we speak. But in speaking in English in an organization, most of the organization use English. Like principal now in his inaugural address, he was speaking about globalized world. We speak English, and English is the language, and most of the problems are created due to English. Very well said. So what are the problems we can create due to poor speaking skills? One is advocacy. Advocacy, what I mean by advocacy is to take a position when you speak for something, to express one's opinions, attitudes, ideas, and convictions. It's very critical how strongly you advocate your point of view across to other people, your team members in the organization, and in fact managing upwards. When I have to manage upwards, people who are above you, having key roles, especially holding key leadership positions, and you might be a junior person. Advocacy comes in very, very important skill. And in doing so, the power of words, the words you choose, and those words are power. It's just like if you have seen this during the election manifesto, during the election campaign, different political leaders give speeches. And why those speeches sometimes really sway the votes, and there is a vote swing happening just because the power of words, the words they use in their speech, bind people, it can break people, can be emotions around. So choosing the right words is very important in communication while speaking, for which you have the clarity of thought and brevity. Sometimes we can get into verbose. Some people might be verbose, and you have an issue of word limit. So brevity is very critical in that sense. Power of pause. Where do you pause when you speak? So that you give the other person a time, a little minute to reflect, listen, absorb what you're saying. And the other important speaking skill I've seen in the organizations is that presentation skills, be it stand-up presentation or be it just a conversation on presenting data, presenting some information, presenting to higher management. These are all comes under speaking skills. Play a very critical role in career success. Moving on from speaking, the next one is listening. Unfortunately, listening is a skill which is not taught in school. I always regret why I was not taught to listen than only to read or speak. Listen. We are all heard, probably people said listening and hearing is same. No? Listening is definitely a different perspective. Hearing might, but listening is more of a communication ability. While listening is looking at the eye contact. Unfortunately, in this particular scenario, when we are having a webinar, we can't see the people's eyes. Probably you can see me, but I can't see the others. But normally on a face-to-face conversation, it's good to maintain eye contact so that you are able to listen very well. And more importantly, active listening by using some nods, verbal nods, or physical nods, saying, aha, yes, I got you. Now, these are some of the active listening skills which are very critical to see that you listen and don't miss the point what the person is saying. Taking notes, yes, most of the people who have succeeded in career take notes when the other person speaks. Because taking notes helps your listening. As I said, we may not be able to absorb everything, but we can go over the notes later. The advantage of taking notes is you can always go over the notes later to what the speaker was saying. And paraphrasing and summarizing is another skill under listening. Paraphrasing is putting it in your own words and checking whether your understanding is right to the person. And summarizing and following up, what is the next step? What will be the next step? What is the action? And that's very important from listening to ensure that you have listened carefully and listened very well and got the point. Communication is complete if the listening is complete. Moving on from listening, the next ability normally is on writing. In fact, if a person, when he applies for a job, that time your writing skills are assessed, which is why if you have seen there is a cover letter, how do you draft the cover letter? How do you present your CV? How do you return your CV, resume? This is the first level of assessment the hiring manager will do on your communication skills. So it's very important to carefully or give attention to this particular part rather than just sending those standard cover letters or standard CVs. See, you tailor your cover letter, tailor your CV to every job that has been advertised. Here in Australia, If your standard cover letter or a standard CV you are sending it, probably, most probably, they won't get a job interview or interview call. They just goes into a dustbin because they will look at communication skill as low. So it's very important to tailor it, to use the right words, and to sell yourself in the first step of the job application. Once you got the job, if you are very well in communication, then you got the job because of your skills, not only communication, and you have the technical skills as well. Email writing is the next thing which is predominant, very predominant in the organization. When I was growing in Mangalore and in India, now during my studies, we didn't have email. We had correspondence and maximum typewriting and sending the mails. Initial part of my career, I did that. But today, email has been so rampant. Every person is very fluent or very conversant of sending email. And just like having a email ID is something which is necessary or a given thing, just like your phone number. So when email writing, how do you write the email? I've seen many times people do blunders while writing email by not having the proper subject line for the email. If the subject line is not proper, not appropriate, probably that email may not draw the attention of the reader. So it's very important to keep the reader in mind when you write the email. And what is your first line in your email? What is the body of your email? And what is the last line of your email? Are equally critical to see that your email gets attention by the reader. Otherwise, people have so many emails. Really, how does your stand out? In what sense, and how do you get a response? So email writing is one of the corresponding major thing of communication. Communicating to the upper management, communicating to your colleagues, communicating to the external customer, communicating with varied internal and external stakeholders. So email writing skills are very, very critical. If at all, you need to really gain that visibility in the organization as well. Which is why having clarity, every paragraph, everything what you're writing has some message there. Brevity is also very critical. Besides email writing today is also another aspect where people try to not to, or maybe doing some mistakes, is social media. Now, social media, I'm not talking about outside the really social world, but in the organization, if you're looking at career success, using the social media. For example, there might be a company web page or a chat box, or there might be a WhatsApp group, particular group of department people you have created for, or probably you have an intranet or a chat, where you can chat with your CEO or the upper management, or you can send messages. Just because it is social media doesn't mean that you can post anything and everything. You have to be very mindful what you post there, even if it is a joke, what jokes are accepted and what are not accepted. Because everything creates your brand in the organization, your brand image. Is created by the content or the matter you post on this media. So it's very critical to be mindful right from the start time you join the organization through your job application until you really exit the organization. Everything what you do counts towards your career success, especially writing is concerned. Yeah. Moving on from, if I say from writing, the next one is the reading. On an average, when I used to be in the corporate world, on an average, you get around 50 to 100 emails per day from different department people, from different colleagues of yours, people, your own team members, top management, people who are below you, across you, everything, everyone. And there are sometimes from. So it's very important to read, have speed reading skills. How quickly you are able to read a mail or email, or you are able to read a report which is received. These days, hardly you receive anything in hard copy. Everything comes as soft copy. So I was not, no, I'm from a hard copy school of thinking, but I have to convert, if at all I have to excel, I have to convert my own approach to reading soft content, soft material. Or sometimes, of course, I've done that. I've taken a printout, and which is something important, and highlighted and other things to read. But end of the day, what is more important to your speed? How quickly you read it, get the message, understand the message in that particular correspondence what you have, and you are able to respond to that appropriately. What we call in industry is a turnaround time. In university in Australia, even given, every faculty is given a turnaround time of maximum 48 hours to go back to the student, if the student writes. But I have set a standard of 24 hours. Within 24 hours, the student will receive the response, appropriate response on any of the aspect the person is asking for. Now, this calls for speed. Doesn't mean that every email or every correspondence you respond in 24 hours. You need to be able to prioritize what is critical and what is important and what is not important. So that's where the speed is very important from that point of view. Doesn't mean that every email it comes you have to respond. You need to decide on what is critical, what is important, and accordingly manage your time in reading. Reading between the lines. Sometimes some mails are not direct. There are a lot of things. Everybody may not be as skilled as you are in reading. But what is important is, what is the message? Is there a message between the lines the person is saying? And if we are able to get that message and respond appropriately, not react, but respond appropriately, you should be able to enhance your image in the organization. The last point in under reading is gaining SME, that is gaining subject matter expertise. Each one of us has a particular field, what we have chosen, and we are working in that area. For example, I'm in the area of talent development or human resource management, and under human resource management, more into people development. Now, it doesn't suffice if I just respond to mails or read mails and read office related only material. It's very important for me to, if at all I have to be on the edge or create that competitive advantage to gain more subject matter expertise by reading knowledge, reading books, reading material in my area of expertise. Because so many new things are happening around the world. How can I share this with my students? What do I do rather than me what I've done or preparation, what I've done about 5 years back? If I churn out the same thing, probably the students would not look at me very kindly. So it is my responsibility to read as much as possible in order to gain the subject matter expertise and keep myself abreast about what's happening as much as possible. So all this is reading skill is very important as a communication tool, I would say. So in conclusion, if I have to conclude this, effective communication skills can provide a person greater visibility, and that's very important in the organization. How visible are you? Who knows you in the organization, not because of anything notorious things, but because of your work, your communication, because of the way you have advocated yourself and really the way you present yourself can give you greater visibility, and this can give enhanced share of management's mind space. Your name will be there on your mind all the time, because that's because of the impact you have made through your work, through your communication in the organization. And that, as a result, will lead to accelerated career success. So if you see those leaders who have risen to the top, most of the time, they have good communication skills. Yes, exceptions should be there or in every field, but most you find this can definitely lead to greater career success if you have the right communication skills. So with that note, I think my time is up. I move the last part is the Q&A. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Hello,
listening.
sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have two questions, rather three questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, based on what you have experienced about communication, what advice do you offer to English learners?
Okay. I think my advice to the English learners is improve as much as possible your vocabulary. Command over English is very critical, especially when your thinking language is not English. It's all the more important to slowly try to change your thinking language as much as possible to English. Slowly and surely you can get there. It's not easy. Even thinking language wasn't English when I started, but over the years I made it possible to make my thinking language English, and that's where English learners can now go into that direction and become effective.
All right. The second question.
I've answered the question.
Yeah. The second question is, how different is education in Australia in terms of teaching skills?
Okay. I'm not sure what changes are happening currently in India as concerned But I have been teaching over the past, whenever I was to work in corporate world, and I've taught in India, in management colleges. I've taught in Middle East. I've also taught in some other countries wherever I went on tour in the Northern America. But of late I've been teaching for in Australia. The skills, teaching skills, which is in Australia, I'm seeing is that
Question.
The skill is more, the teaching is more student centric. So compared to India, it was teacher centric. The teacher is to be the guru, whereas here the teacher or the lecturer is just a sage by the stage. What is they say? A person who is there for you to help everything the student is driving the learning. So that's the whole shift and the essay writing and other assignments, progress assignments, what they have are very critical for their development. And that's the major shift I saw when I moved to Australia and started teaching here as part-time, no, as my part-time passion, because I was always in the corporate world, but I've always been teaching as a part-time. So that's where I found the shift, special skills in education here.
Okay, there are two more questions, I think, which will be taken up tomorrow. One is on how to develop listening skills, and the other one is on how to improve confidence to write and speak. I think this is for a panelist tomorrow, so they'll be answered there tomorrow.
Okay, great.
There's one more on how to develop confidence in communication. Would you like to say something, Dr. D'Souza?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let me give an analogy. I don't know how many of you other people are driving. If you are driving a car, even if you are riding a bicycle, riding a scooter or a two-wheeler, how do you develop confidence of riding it? Is nothing but only is practice. Practice, practice, practice. So even if you want a presentation skill, you want to make presentation, yes, you'll have butterflies in your stomach, but ultimately the practice is the thing which gives you confidence. So confidence, there is no shortcut to confidence. Only, of course, the attitude also, but it is more important is if you are practiced, if you are prepared, then your confidence comes automatically.
All right. How can we motivate our students who come from vernacular medium? Like the question is that we're surrounded by people, of our region, so mother tongue prevails everywhere. So how can we keep ourselves away from getting affected by the regional language?
Yeah, I speak 7 languages when I was in India, and all the 7 languages other than English affected my English a lot. No, and because every second word in English when you speak, we use Tulu or Kannada or Hindi. No, and that's why I would say if those who are speaking English, trying to speak English, see that you don't use any other language words in your vocabulary while you speak. Make it a point not to use any other words. No, and every time you reflect when you have given a presentation, you have spoken somewhere, though there might be in the audience some people who are understanding other language, but if you want to develop, if you are from a vernacular medium, you come from a vernacular medium and you are developing English skills, ensure you speak only English when you are speaking English. So that way you can develop over a period of time good English speaking skills.
There's one question about Australia. Why is IELTS necessary to study in Australia? And this person says that he wants to do his MBA in Australia, and if there's any university there which can take admission without IELTS.
Yeah. IELTS is important from your own point of view. I would not ask the university to stop not having IELTS because of two reasons. One is you'll be paying heavy fees and you're studying in Australia because English skills are poor. Now, because you are not able to understand what the read faster, because you have to read so many articles and read so many research material in a short time and write essays. Essays are not as you have copy and paste. It calls plagiarism. Plagiarism is a serious thing in Australia. Very serious in universities. People get debarred. People get expelled from the student get expelled from the university if there is plagiarism is there. And most of the international students are get into this issue because of they didn't read enough. So IELTS is essential. It is in your favor if you are score very well in IELTS. There is a relationship that you can do well in your studies in Australia. And IELTS also for immigration, they have made it very important because of the way of living is English. So you should be able to, if you go to a government office, you should be able to understand what they are saying. If you go to any other, even to a butcher or even to a saloon person, you should be able to understand what they say and what you say. So it's very important from that point of view for studies and for a living, normal day-to-day living.
Yeah, one last question. What are the important aspects to be considered while planning for presentation?
Okay. I think presentation is a vast area and there is a science in itself. But I think the first thing what you should consider is who is your audience, whom you are going to deliver the presentation. So the first is analysis of the audience is very critical. And the second part is what level of audience. And the third one is what is the message you want to deliver to them. So these three things you start before you want to start the presentation, preparing your presentation. If you have these three things in front of you, you can accordingly prepare your presentation and make a presentation. And then other one is the delivery skills. One is preparing the presentation. Second one is the delivery skills, how you deliver the presentation. Yeah.
That's about it. That's about it, Dr. Nelson. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for taking time to join us. And I think you gave the right focus to this webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next speaker, I would like to once again give the instructions to participants. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box or in the Q&A. At the end of the session, I will read them out to the speaker. The link for tomorrow's registration sessions, there have been questions on this. So the link for tomorrow's registration sessions will be mailed to you today around 2 p.m. After which you have to go through the same process of registration that you did for today's program. Attending all sessions on both days and filling the feedback form is mandatory to receive the e-certificate, and the feedback form will be mailed to you after tomorrow's sessions. We now go on to our second session on importance of English language in the professional world, and our resource person has joined us. Our resource person for this session was a very meritorious student. As a student, he excelled. He was a rank holder in BE Computer Science with a CGPA of 9.38. While he was in engineering college, he conducted online job interview coaching, and he was much sought after for the practical tips he gave to job seekers. He has had the privilege of working in multiple professional settings over the years and interacting with a diverse set of global audience. He is a software engineer with 6 years of work experience and is currently working in Singapore. I feel truly honored to welcome Mr. Ronald Pinto. Over to you, Mr. Pinto.
Awesome. Thank you for the kind intro. I hope you all can see my.
Yes.
I'm going to change the slides. If you can't see it, just let me know. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you all virtually today. My name is Ronald Pinto, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about importance of English language in the professional world. A little bit about me. So I am a software engineer, and currently, I'm a software engineer by profession, and I have worked in diverse workplaces since the past 6 years. So not long ago, I was a student like y'all, and basically in college, studying and learning. Over the course of time, I have worked with a varied group of colleagues and clients. And I do want to emphasize from various nationalities, cultural, racial, and linguistic backgrounds. I've also had the opportunity to live in different cities, both in India and abroad, and English being the primary language which I use for communication. However, growing up, English was not my first language. In fact, it wasn't even the second language I learned. It was actually the third language I learned growing up. But over time, I embraced English. And I do want to emphasize on the word embraced. It is not just learning or just reading for the sake of it. It is actually making it a part of your life. And I consciously worked on improving my reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills. And listening is important here, and I'll come to that in some time. To ensure that I could communicate effectively and put forth my thoughts. So why do you need English in a workplace setting? It is to effectively communicate. You need not be an expert in the language. You need not be a Sashi Tharoor or a William Shakespeare. But whatever work you are given, are you able to communicate that effectively? Are you able to resolve conflicts effectively? Are fundamental and key. Cool. I was wondering what I should talk to you about in this session. I know we have a lot of eminent speakers who are going to talk about interview and honing your English skills. So I thought, let me take a step back and see what are some of the key skills I use in my day-to-day work. And there could be an argument that these skills are required for any language. And that is true. It is required for any language. But given a recent study conducted by Cambridge English, it shows that English is by far the most important language globally. So they divided their survey into 3 parts. In non-English speaking countries, in countries where English is used as the de facto language, and in English speaking countries. So a good example of non-English speaking country is China or Japan. Country where English is a de facto is India. India is a good example. And a purely English speaking country could be United Kingdom or United States. So as you can see from this survey, majority, even in countries where English is not an official language, did call out English as very important to get about with their business. And this is across industries. It is not just technology. It is not just hospitality or marketing. And it is skewed towards the countries where English is the primary language. But imagine you're in China and there nobody speaks English. Even there, they consider English to be very important. And out of the 4 key areas where we generally look at for any language, what are some of the key things which people look at or employers look at when they want to hire you? They're actually reading, speaking, listening, and writing. And as you can see, in a country like India, which would be a de facto official language, speaking comes number 1, followed by reading and listening. But if you're working in a country like United States or United Kingdom, you can see listening has a lot of importance. And that is where I do want to emphasize some of the time later today, because while growing up, we generally tend to ignore listening, not just to people, but in general to material news or even to our colleagues. And that could lead to miscommunication, which could in turn lead to workplace issues. And that may not be the best scenario for a successful career. Speaking is definitely the most important and by far the area where you all would need to focus the most. English is by far the only language wherein the latest knowledge, and it is a language of business, science, etiquettes, and innovation. So English in the professional world is the language of international business. So in my day-to-day work, I use English, pretty much all the time. And this is not just to communicate internally to my colleagues or to my teammates, but also to external clients or to other teams within the company. Most of us have an impressive command of spoken and written English. I don't deny that. We grow up learning English fundamentals, we can speak English, and that is super important in business communication, emails, presentation, sales, marketing. So these are all the things we are aware of. But what we generally tend to ignore is the internal communication. How do you set up the communication with your teammates, with your manager for an effective workplace culture are critical. And the thing that we mostly forget or oversee is listening. So this is a skill you'll need to build from the very beginning. It's not just listening to others, it is also ensuring that others listen to you. And there's a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing doesn't mean that you are actually assimilating that knowledge or assimilating that information, but listening basically means you give your complete attention to the speaker and you expect the same in return. So yeah, I don't want to go into a lot of content. I just want to focus on a few key skills. We could talk for hours on all the kind of specifics you need, but I thought these 4 are the key ones. I've broken them up into core skills and soft skills. So what are some of the core skills? And this is what we are generally groomed for, with English being a second or third language. You need to have strong in English fundamentals, both in speaking, reading, and writing. And you need to be able to communicate this out effectively. Again, I do want to emphasize you need to have sound English fundamentals. You need not be perfect. None of us are perfect. And at the same time, you need to communicate effectively. It's not that you're always giving a speech. It could be a simple workplace issue, and you just want to communicate that to your manager or to anybody. And you should be able to send your word across respectfully, politely, and assertively with total completeness. And the next part I want to focus on is where listening and and communicating with the right body language are critical. And that is when you have to give constructive feedback and you have to resolve conflicts in the workplace. Now, unlike college or like a street, you can't just fight or argue or go in a physical fighting mode with people. That's not how it works in a workplace. In any company, for that matter, you need to sit and you need to resolve things face to face and with an open mind. Similarly, if you see something going wrong or you think that you need to share some feedback, you need to do it in a constructive way so as not to hurt the other person or to come across in a wrong way. Cool. So this is a good example of why we need to have strong English fundamentals. A comma could have a lot of difference. Let's eat kids and let's eat kids are totally different meanings. Writing concise and articulate work emails and project documents are key. If you have to present this internally to your team lead or to another team, or also externally to a client, you generally get 20 to 30 minutes to present, and that is like maximum time. And in that time, whatever work you have done, that needs to come across effectively. Correct grammar and sound vocabulary do leave a lasting impact. If you use a wide range of vocabulary, that would be great. It could be the icing on the cake. Always focus on the key points. bring the conversation to the important points, and filtering that out in your day-to-day conversation is important. We generally talk a lot of things. What are the key takeaways, and how do you present those key takeaways are critical. The next thing is effective communication. Now, this is a broad topic. There are multiple facets to look at this. I just want to cover it at a more holistic level, just trying to capture the main gist of this topic. But effective communication, again, this is not perfect communication. You need not have like the best vocabulary, or you need to like score 100 in English to be able to communicate effectively. Effective communication is important when you're delivering a presentation or talking. This is all about talking and your body language. How are you able to communicate that? Are you able to translate what you're thinking and what you want to convey in the correct way to the correct audience? Do use good pronunciation, and if you don't know how to pronounce a person's name, do ask that person before you like say it out loudly to a broader audience. And this is generally important when you're dealing with the international audience. So we may not be the best people to pronounce a Russian name or a Japanese name. And so that would also be important. Try to be a storyteller. Don't just deliver, I would say, a monotonous tone. Try to, how do you manage to change your voice modulation, and you're able to mesmerize the audience or own the room to whom you're talking are critical. So this is all about external talking, and this is what we generally prepare for. But then what about internal talking? By that, I mean within the company. You have to talk to your colleagues every day. You have to talk to your neighboring teams every day, or to another sales team if you're working in engineering, or if you're working in the marketing sales team, you might have to talk to another team, another domain. How do you go about those conversations are also very critical. And this is where I have noticed folks who tend to grow up mixing 2 to 3 languages, they generally tend to be a bit more reserved, a bit more low on confidence. And so they're not able to express themselves openly. And that generally comes across as low confidence, which is not the case. It's just that they grew up speaking in 2, 3 different languages, and now they have to just speak in one language, and they are not able to effectively do that. And this is your day-to-day communication. So working on that and ensuring that you're able to get your word across is important and leave that lasting impression, both internal within the company and external. I would say in a normal workplace, more than 80% of your time is working with internal peers within the company, and maybe 20% would be with external audience. So that internal part is very, very important. How do you go about your day-to-day communication and are able to come across in an effective, polite, and respectful manner are necessary. I do want to highlight 5 traits of effective communication, and this is true for any scenario. Be comprehensive. Try to be as detailed and covering as much information as possible for the topic you want to talk about. Don't try to bring in ambiguity. Try to be unambiguous. Don't try to add confusion when you're talking. Try to keep it precise. Awareness. This is very important. So be aware of the people you're talking to. So for example, in my case, I talk to a technical audience sometimes who understand some of the technical terminologies which I would be using in my day-to-day work. But then the very next minute, I might have to pivot and work with a non-technical audience. This could be HR, logistics, marketing, or sales. Now, I cannot talk to them with using a lot of technical terminology or taking the conversation in a very computer science manner. They would lose interest. They will not get they will not be able to understand what I'm trying to communicate. And that's where you need to have that context of who is the audience you're talking to. Similarly, please be polite. It is very easy to use a slang or try to get a bit disrespectful And we need to avoid that as much as possible. Again, this is also like going back to our college days, wherein we do mix a lot of languages, especially in a multilingual country like India. And it is not our mistake actually growing up, but it is important that we adapt to the workplace and we are able to come across in a polite manner. And please be aware of different nuances here. By nuances, I mean racial, national, gender, as well as cultural. So you might be coming across as polite to people from, say, one country, but that may not sound right to somebody from another country. So you need to ensure that when you're communicating, you use the most universal language or words as possible. A good example here is whitelist and blacklist, right? Growing up, we use these two terms a lot. I will whitelist this document, I'm going to blacklist this application, right? But that would come across as racially insensitive because the origins of this word were in slavery in the United States, where whitelisting means you're good to go, blacklist means you're blocked. So it is very important that we try to avoid some of these words, especially when we are talking to an audience which is global and which has folks from all nationalities. And lastly, accuracy. Please ensure that you always have accurate information which you're trying to communicate. Try to avoid uh, talking about unproven things or trying to like build a very complicated narrative to get across a simple sentence. Cool. I would say those are the core skills. Most of us were aware of it, but I've just tried to pivot and go into the other facets of it, like internally, how do you talk to your stakeholders within the company? How do you ensure that you use universal terms and are catering to a broad set of audiences? So next are soft skills, and this is very important. I know we have a session on interview, and I let that speaker cover it. But in any company or in any field you look at, there is always one interview round, which is called as behavioral or soft skills or communication round. And that is where they basically look at how you present yourself, how you can deal with workplace conflicts, how you can give and receive feedback, and how you're able to effectively go about your day-to-day work. So the first one is constructive feedback, and this is very common. We all need feedback to improve, to change if something is wrong, or to continue doing if something is right. Similarly, we have to give constructive feedback. And I call this constructive and not just feedback because we don't want to come across as insulting or as negative or as depressing. We want to come across as optimistic, and we want to give the person as much area of feedback as possible in the most constructive manner. So this includes both giving and receiving feedback. You also need to present yourself in a way that a person is comfortable to come to you and give you that feedback. Do be specific to what was the issue and talk in a positive manner. Try to use facts as much as possible. And this is again where accuracy and preciseness of the way you communicate comes across. Do use descriptive language. And this is where it's not just how you talk or how you read or how you listen. It's also how you use your body language, right? Are you giving that eye contact? Are the words you're speaking in English matching to what you're trying to depict from your body language? And listening. I'm again emphasizing listening is very, very important. It is often overlooked when we study English, but in a workplace setting, it is very important that you listen patiently to the person who's talking to you. And if you do that, they will also listen carefully to you when you are talking. And this exchange is really important to be a successful corporate employee, as well as to grow as a person. And lastly, conflict resolution. Now, it's not black and white in any workplace. You have a lot of scenarios where you will hit issues. So you need to identify the problem. You need to identify the sentiments or the nuances again behind that conflict. There could be multiple reasons. You need to estimate the impact of the issue, like what could this issue lead to eventually, and how you could use your English skills to address that. Finding a resolution, working with stakeholders and common middle ground, all these are again human values which we need to inculcate. And the only way we could express ourselves for these different scenarios is through English, at least in a workplace setting. Cool. I guess I tried to cover a lot of human behavioral traits. And initially, I also covered the importance of English. So, again, the argument here is these behavioral traits we could convey in any language. And that is true. It's not that you need to always speak in English. You could communicate that in any language. But as you saw from the survey, and as you can also see once you are looking for a job, English is that mechanism or that mode of communication. And hence, how are you able to work using English to address our workplace in a very positive manner and using the right English skill sets? We again have a whole session on honing your English skills. I do want to emphasize on a quick few points what I followed while growing up. Again, just a few years back, I was a student like y'all. I have grown up in many cities and also like using different slangs. I was speaking in English for a long time, which is a mixture of Hindi and English. Then there was Marathi, then there was Kannada. So there was a lot of languages I had used growing up. And now I'm based in Singapore. And in Singapore on the streets, they use a dialect called Singlish. So Singlish is basically a mixture of English, Chinese, and Malay. So there are different things you need to adapt to. But once you enter the workplace, you need to shut out that world and you need to speak in effective English, which would be only English and trying not to mix the other languages. What did I do personally growing up, given that English was the third language I learned, and we never used to speak English much at home? It was all how I consumed the English language and how I embraced it and how I was able to express myself using it. Read good books, biographies, novels. I would say up till 5th grade, my English skills were pretty poor. And that's when I started reading encyclopedias, novels in English. And they actually helped me, reading that and then effectively being able to write essays. So I just used those fundamentals to get started. Do watch documentaries or good movies to improve your English skills. So again, I like to watch documentaries. I'm a big fan of history, so I do watch a lot of documentaries on World War II or anything related to current affairs. And that helps you to listen to the narrator talking and actually improve your listening skills. Make it a habit to read English articles, editorials, newspapers daily. So nobody's perfect. Every day is changing and you learn new things every single day. Even in a busy schedule, I try to read a news app on my phone for around 30 minutes in the morning and around 30 minutes in the evening. And that helps me to get that daily dose of reading English articles, even now, right? Fortunately for y'all, everything can be accessed with a phone. It is really important how we all access this information and what kind of information you'll access. I do want to emphasize what, because there's a lot of junk online, which may not be the best source of your daily English news. So do try to read good articles, good newspapers, and good news apps. That would be critical. Think in English. Yes, this I guess has been communicated in the previous talk as well. So thinking in English is critical. And why I say so? Because if your brain thinks in English, it is very easy for you to say it out or to communicate that out. Many a times we see people saying that that's not what I wanted to convey, I came across wrongly. And that mainly happens when your brain thinks in another language, and then you try to process it in English, and then you try to communicate it in English. So that transaction which happens in your brain could lead to some confusion, and it could lead to you coming out in the wrong way. So I would say, again, sometime in fifth or sixth grade, sixth standard, I was pretty much uniformly trying to think in English. And I'm continuing to do that now. And that really helps, because if I have to say something, just before that, my brain's also thinking it in English. Listen more often to people before you interrupt them. And this is a good skill to have. You will hear a lot of people talking. Some of it may be relevant, some of it may not be relevant. It is important for you to switch to listen to what is relevant and able to assimilate that information, break down the key points in it, and then process and give your response or give your reply. And please listen carefully before you give any reply, because most of the miscommunication which could happen is when you do not understand something clearly. And that generally happens when you don't listen enough, or you are not giving that attention to the person who's speaking. And I know this is a bit tricky when you are influenced by the local languages around you, but try your best, at least in the classroom, to use only English when you talk to your colleagues or classmates. And then maybe outside the classroom, you could switch to your native language. Again, I'm a complete believer in all languages. Personally, I speak 6 languages, and I really love to speak in all these 6 languages. But yeah, if you think English is not your most strongest language at the moment, then do try your best or to speak as much as you could with your colleagues in English. Lastly, conclusion, pretty straightforward. English is the most used and dominating language, and this is just gonna grow. It plays an important role in the world, and it is inevitable for people to ignore now, especially when you wanna work in a global setting or in a globalized world. It has a bright future, yes. It helps you connect to the global world. And even if you travel to a non-English speaking country, they do have signs in English, but they may not have signs in Hindi or other local languages which we speak in India. English could be challenging and time consuming, yes. I wouldn't call it the most difficult language to learn, to be honest. That goes to Chinese. It is a very difficult language. But yes, many people could find it difficult and time consuming. But rest assured, this investment of learning English proactively, embracing the language in your day-to-day life, could create multiple opportunities and really open a Pandora's box for you all to explore the world and get really good jobs. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ronald Pinto, for that wonderful talk from your experience. I have a couple of questions here. The first one is, which one do you think is more important, being a good listener or a good communicator?
Yeah, I would say they both go hand in hand. But the chronology here is you need to listen to the person who's speaking before you give a response, right? In most of the scenarios. In a day-to-day communication, when you join a company, you're not the first person who would be speaking. I mean, you just join and you won't go talking to everybody, right? You'll be spending some time listening to your colleagues when they are presenting, when they are going about their day-to-day work, understanding how they do these things. And then you should be able to understand what are the different traits of behavior of each of these colleagues and able to build an effective strategy to communicate with them. So yeah, I would really say both go hand in hand. The reason why I emphasize listening is we do not give it the same importance as speaking or as reading and writing, and which we should. So we definitely should give a lot of importance to listening. And that's coming to my second point. Today, in today's world, for reading and writing, we have a lot of tools available. You have spell checkers, you have Grammarly, which could correct your grammar, punctuations when you write a document or you write an email. But there's nothing. We don't have a chip or we don't have a smart tool yet, which could go in your head and help you to speak effectively or listen effectively. These things are something you need to decipher and you need to build on your own. So that's why it's really important to focus on that, especially when English is not your first language. And as you saw from the survey respondents, in countries where English is the first language, they give listening the same importance as speaking, if not slightly lower.
Okay, your second question is all the way from Philippines. Now, this question says, from the student's point of view, courses like physics, chemistry, biology, grammar, and language are not essential. What is your comment?
They are essential. It really depends on how you want to prioritize it. Even if it is a science subject or a commerce subject, how are you able to communicate your thoughts out is through English. So yes, growing up, we do see for our fundamental skill sets, they don't focus much on grammar or pronunciation. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but you cannot be horrible either, right? You have to find a common ground. And that is what is the effective communication or the sound English fundamentals ground for you, right? Because when you're going for a job, there they will definitely test your skills. So for a commerce student, they will test your physics, whatever, right? Computer science, electronics. For a marketing student, they'll test your marketing and sales skills. But then there is always this one round where they focus on behavioral, they focus on soft skills, and that is what you have to nail. And that can only come when, again, you don't need to know rocket science here. You don't need to do an English crash course. Start nimble, start small, do your daily reading, listen more often to people if you're not. Try to speak more often in English. I would say like undiluted English. And as much as possible, consume as much of good English language and vocabulary content as possible.
Okay, so now this is maybe you can answer it from your own personal experience. If your mother tongue is another language, how do you think in English?
Well, it's not really difficult. It's how your brain tries to switch. So again, my mother tongue is Konkani, but I cannot read or write Konkani because there's no specific script for it. And while growing up, we always get English content. It is not very difficult for you to embrace English as a language. And again, the word embrace is important. We should not just consider English as yet another subject. I just need to score 90 or 80. That is not the way you go about it. Make it a part of your life. And that is when you could, or at least try to, make it a part of your thought process. Again, don't think about getting good scores. Don't think I need to get 100 or a 90. That isn't the final thing you need to do in this world, right? You need to embrace English. You need to ensure that you get the key learnings out of it, which could help in your effective communication and also help you hone your soft skills.
All right. Now, you already answered this question on how to improve listening skills by talking about watching English movies. There's just one question more. How to improve slang of communication?
What do you mean by slang of communication? Slang.
Yeah, slang.
My question is, why would you need to use a lot of slangs in your day-to-day work? I'll tell you one reason I use it a lot, because when I have to go for shopping or I need to go to buy something or bargain, it really helps to know the local dialect of that particular language. And that really comes from inside. I personally love to learn a lot of languages. And that also shows that I can 6 languages. I'm trying to learn a 7th. But it cannot be everybody's cup of cake. And I'm again not asking to make it your cup of cake. But yeah, if you're interested to learn slang, just ensure that there's a switch in your head, right? When you come in a professional setting, when you're sitting in your classroom, ensure that you try to use clear and pure English. And when you're going in your home setting or you're going in your local setting, you could switch. This may not be easy, and there's no perfect way to do it. I am able to do it to some extent. And if you are able to do it, go for it. I mean, nobody's asking you to completely forget your slang. Do not forget it is a part of your culture. Mixing Tulu, Kannada, English is a part of your culture. Go for it. But when you're coming in a workplace, are you able to adapt to this new setting? Are you able to remove some of the region specific nuances while talking to a global audience? Are fundamental. And you need to think from that perspective, not that it's I need to forget the slang. No, you need not. It's just that you need to embrace the slang and embrace the corporate world, and try, when you're coming in a corporate world, try to adapt to it, because adapting is important for anything, and especially to grow the corporate ladder as well.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mr. Ronald Pinto, for taking all that time off your schedule. We know how busy you are. Thanks a lot for agreeing to be part of this webinar and for that wonderful and practical session. Thank you.
My
Before we
pleasure.
go-
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Before we go on to the next speaker, here's some information. All participants who are here today, you will get a link after 2 p.m. to register for tomorrow's webinar. Once you register, you will get a joining link for tomorrow to join at 2 p.m. Now there's one other question that was there on suggestions for a good grammar book. As an English teacher, I would say don't learn English grammar from grammar books. Don't attempt to do it that way. So how should you do it? Maybe you should wait for tomorrow's session on honing English language skills. We now move on to our last session of the day on interview skills and verbal ability. Our resource person completed his engineering from MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore, and MTech from Manipal Institute of Technology. He worked as assistant professor at Nete Engineering College. He has trained thousands of students for various competitive exams and placements. He has been guest and visiting professor at various colleges. He is the managing director of Abhijna Education Private Limited and has a YouTube channel named Abhijna Education Abhilash Kshatriya. It's my privilege to welcome Mr. Abhilash K. Over to you, Mr. Abhilash.
Welcome everyone. I'm Abhilash Kshatriya. So welcome to the session of interview skills and verbal ability. So let us see what are the different factors you need to possess during your interview, as well as some tips and tricks for verbal ability in different competitive exams. So let me start here with the next slide. So when I say about the wow factors here, before going to an interview, you should know that you should believe in yourself first. So what I would like to say is about self-confidence. Then comes interpersonal skills. So when I speak about interpersonal skills, it would be the fluency in English, listen attentively, I hope you understood the concept about listening and speaking. And then you need to be honest in an interview. And what are the questions usually an interviewer will be asking you, as well as what is your response? And you need to be a good listener as well. And then you need to communicate. But what are the factors you're supposed to possess? That is what matters. So, when I'm speaking to you, your body language, your eye-to-eye contact, your posture, and then your hand movements. Your hand movements should match what you speak. And usually when we go for an interviewer asks you from where did you come and all those things. You just say, I stay here or I stay over there. Your body language, your hand movement plays a very important role. So this is what you need to take care of. And the expressions, you need to show it in your face, as well as when I speak about the body language, you cannot lean on the table or you cannot keep your hand somewhere else. You need to know where exactly how to speak. So moving on to the next very important stuff. These are the things which I have mentioned as expected qualities. So as discussed in the earlier slide, effective verbal communication, be a natural speaker. Instead of preparing to speak, it would be better if you're a natural speaker, because the questions asked in an interview is somewhat on the spot questions. So you can expect the unexpected. That is what I would like to say. The natural delivery is very, very important. Pronounce sentence clearly. There are so many instances when we ask the name of a person, they pronounce it in such a way that the last 3 alphabets or the last 4 alphabets, they'll eat it. They'll just swallow it. So you need to be crystal clear. When I say I'm Abhilash, it should be Abhilash. The end should come in such a way that each and every alphabet is stressed. If you just swallow the last words, the last alphabets like Abhilah, but you know that your name is something and your friends know that who you are, but the person who is interviewing you is a third person. He might be a stranger and you do not know who he is and he do not know who you are. So you need to pronounce sentence clearly. That is very, very important. And speak a little more louder or lower your voice. When the interviewer asks some questions, have some patience to listen, to hear clearly, and then react rather than responding immediately. So to be a good listener, you need to listen to it as well as then you need to speak. When you speak, be louder. Don't give a chance for the interviewer to tell that, could you please repeat what you said or pardon me. So those are all the words usually what we hear from an interviewer because of the lack of spontaneous action, what you are supposed to do. So these are some of the expected qualities happening usually in an interview. Okay. Next comes rejected. This is very important. When you know what to do, you're supposed to know what not to do also. So when I say rejected, irrelevant answers to the questions. Something would be asked, but when I say something, then you cannot deviate the topic. Okay, you cannot divert the question to something else. When they ask about your name, you're just supposed to say your name, but with the extra interest towards the interviewer, you do not go on saying the entire history of yours. Just answer to the point. That is what I would like to say. Little eye contact and nervous mannerism. Usually, when something is asked which you do not know, just be free to say that you do not know. Instead, do not divert the question or do not completely go against the topic asked when interviewed. Lack of sincerity, obviously, usually the usual body language which you learn in soft skill and personal development. When you are supposed to enter an interview, you should know that when you face an interviewer, first and foremost, you are asking whether you can sit in the chair which is in front of him. And then you just need to greet him along with your resume. There are a lot of instances where I have seen where the resume and the file of you or the employer, it just kept there and it is just lying on the table. It is not your table when you're going for an interview. That is one thing which you have to be very careful. I repeat, the table where you face in an interview is not your table. So you need to keep some distance, sit straight, and then answer the questions. That is what I would like to say. Then utter superficial remarks to impress the interviewer, especially related to project. when you highlight your ability, your skills, you should know the reality of it, the practical approach of it. That is what I mean. Do not just speak in such a way that you've done something great, though it is great, you just highlight the importance of the project. These are all the stuffs which usually is being rejected by people because of repetitive and lack of sincerity. That is what I would say. Moving on to the next, there are a lot of do's and don'ts, so which you can take down. Like, do take a practice run to the location. If you're going to an interview, you should know the place. And due to the unavoidable circumstances like traffic and a lot of other problems, and you should know in which floor is the interview. If there is a lift over there, you should know you should be ready to go to the second floor or the third floor. So just a practice run to the location just to see whether you are aware of the entire environment. Next, if presented with the job application, do fill it neatly, completely, and accurately. Do not expect the person to come and ask you and tell that this column is not filled. That shows your lack of focus and your hurriness. So do bring extra resume to the interview because in an interview, there can be one person who will be interviewing you, or it can be a panel of people where there are a lot of people and they might need different copies of resume. You cannot just share one resume with the different interviews. So these are all some backup stuffs. Do greet the interviewer. That is what usually people do it. Do wait until you're offered a chair before sitting. That's what I told, because with extra interest to face an interview, you will be like, you'll just go there and sit there thinking that it's your chair. That's why I repeat again, it is not your chair or your table when you're going for an interview. Next, eye contact, I had already told. Do show some enthusiasm in the position in the company. So you will know what kind of position you're going for, and you will know what kind of job you are looking for. So when you go there, you make sure that you're showing some interest towards the position as well as the company. And then do make sure that your good points come across in interview in a factual, sincere manner. So what do I mean by facts? The facts should meet the reality, what's happening, and what is required by your steps. That is what I expect from you. Then do stress your achievements. Let's speak about achievements. It is something not about, it should match your profile there. If the position is something of a coding or a testing or a technical point of view, you cannot tell your achievements that you won the national award or you won in national level sports meet or something like that. I understand each and every achievement is an achievement, but try to speak what is required at that position, current situation, and with respect to the profile. Next, don'ts. When you know what are do's, you should know what are the don'ts also. Do avoid controversial topics because the interviewer might test your patience, your interest, your enthusiasm. So when you're speaking something, you should know that the person might simply put up a topic where just to see your level of patience. He might speak about politics, he might speak about current affairs and all those things. So you just need to see that you need to avoid some controversial topics and don't ever lie because they'll come to know because the interviewer has interviewed lots of people like you. Then that is what I would like to say. And very important, don't say anything negative about former colleagues, supervisor, or employers because you should know if you speak about something wrong about your past with respect to the situation, and the interviewer might think after you leave the same company, then after a few years, you might speak something bad for them also. So every reaction has equal and opposite reaction. So you should know every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So you should be very careful with that. So moving forward, now comes the different questions. A lot of questions are put here. Usually asked questions. Okay, I cannot tell that everybody will ask this question, but usually asked questions. Around 15 to 20 questions I have put here. Let us discuss one by one. And first and foremost, you know, and I know, and everyone know, because when you face an interviewer, the interviewer will not have an idea about yourself. So, can you tell me about yourself? So, what I have put here, you just give your best. Do not start with from where you were born, from where your schooling and your education system and all those things. Keep it aside and see to it that you come to get a job there. And when you get a job there, the profile should match. for the profile to match, you should know your academics to match. If you're an experienced person, you can just match with that experience. So first and foremost, what matters when they say that when you are supposed to tell about yourself is nothing but your current situation. What are you doing now? What have you done now? What are you planning to do now? All those things matter. Career is very important because they know their background. And also you should know that if you're called for an interview, that means they have gone through your profile and then they are calling you. So if you repeat the same stuffs, nobody will show so much of interest as what they would like to show or what they would like to expect from an candidate. So what I would like to say here is when you speak something which is very important regarding the career, regarding the education, then you connect your passion with the profile. I was a person who was looking for such kind of job from so many years, and right now I have got an opportunity to show my skills and abilities, and my passion will meet this profile. That's the reason why I need this job. It is what we expect here, rather than the life story or history of previous employment or hobbies or traveling or dancing or reading. Nobody will be interested. So most important when they say about when they ask you to tell about yourself, it's the passion which meets with your profile. Next, different questions here. These are the usual questions. Why did you leave your previous job? So say something good about it, because I'll give you some tips and tricks of some keywords to just tell rather than explaining each and everything. Why did you leave your previous job? Maybe a better idea would be there was no growth in the previous company with respect to your profile, where the new job offers a lot of growth and a lot of future in it. Again, what sort of job you're looking for? Those questions are tricky questions, because they know that you have applied for a particular job. So those questions, so I told all the questions will not be asked. Depends on the company, depends on the person who is interviewing. So it depends on exactly the situation what you're in. But keep in mind, these might be the questions put forward for you. What appeals to you about the job? What do you think this job is about? Why do you think you would be good at this job? Because you should say that you have this experience, have some experience. If you do not have any experience, you tell them you've done some internships, you've done some projects with respect to this profile. Such a way it will match it. What are your strengths? Strength and weakness are very important. I'll come back to that in a separate slide where I can explain to you what are the key strengths you can put forward in an interview. Next one, would you accept this job if it's offered to you? So that's a googly question over there. It's like you're coming for an interview and they're asking, have you really come for an interview? And what do you know about this company? That is one question, because every person would like to know that you have done some research about the company. If you take this job, how long would you stay? Nobody would like a candidate to stay for a day or for a month or a year. Instead, they would look for a longer run, such a way that they can build some relationship as well as some ideas when they share. They're looking for a longer term, maybe a 5-year contract or a 3-year contract would be more sufficient. Don't you think you will be too old, young, or inexperienced? This is just to test your patience. This question is usually asked at the end when things are going fine and you are just flying in the air. This is a question just to stop you thinking that the doubt in your mind, the doubt in the interviewer, whether to tell it the right person or not. Interviewer, if it all the questions have been done, finally, if they ask you, do you think you will be too old or young or inexperienced? You'll be confused. You'll be thinking whether the person really need me, or has he asked these questions just to test my patience? So this is very, very important. I repeat, when you think you will be too old, young or inexperienced, you just say that, you just need to say that I feel that I'm the right person for this job. When you say you're the right person for this job, I think you can tell the opposite person will understand that your age factor doesn't matter here. What matters is your quality and the way you present in front of an interviewer. Next one. Why do you think you can do good at this job? This is a tricky question there. So there are two things. A job where I love to work, like the people can contribute more to the company. Here, a tricky sentence is the phrase like the people. When you do not know the people in the new company, you have to be very careful about speaking about like the people. Then a job which is challenging, obviously, a job which gives me opportunities to grow knowledge and skills. So they might ask you, a previous job also would have given you a lot of opportunities. You should say that if you are interested in a further job, you should say that I have some passion. I need to excel in my area. So in previous company, I wouldn't have that opportunity. I saw that there is no growth in that company. So that is the reason why I would like to switch on. So that would be a better answer. Strength I have put here because this is very important. When people write a resume also, they say that a lot of strength. Strength they describe as hard work. What we see in the recent graduates is hard work. Not put hard work anywhere here in this. They will say that excellent communicator because you should know that when you put something as a strength, you should justify that strength. When I say words like hard work or excellent, those are the words for which you cannot convince the person in front of you because here strength of your subject knowledge, so they can ask something about that so that when you answer there is a conclusion that it is done. So ability to prioritize. So if they give you a task, so what to prioritize, what I can keep the first choice, all those things, there is a convincing answer. Problem solving skills, they might give you something and you're supposed to solve it. Ability to work under pressure, they might ask you a scenario, a case scenario, where they might say that something wrong might have happened in their company or their previous company, and how do you tackle the situation? How do you think you can do this? How can you do justice to the company? All those things. These questions will be asked in group discussion as a part of the interview. I'll be discussing about group discussion also. When I speak about that, I'll tell you a topic where you can discuss about it, and then I can give you the answers also. Next comes ability to work under pressure, ability to focus on projects, then professional expertise. If you are mastered in some software or some particular area, leadership skills, where you're a team leader in your college, or where you're the group leader, or have you done something on your own where you, because of you, the entire team was appreciated. Positive attitude, as I told, what matters most is you need to believe in yourself. So do not speak about negative stuffs when you're speaking about your strength. Now comes weakness. When I speak about weakness, people say we do not have weakness. Not having weakness is your weakness. That is very, very important. So do not say you do not have any weakness. People, some might think that if you do not have some weakness, you might feel that you are a person, a perfect person, but not exactly. I repeat, a person who is not having weakness is nothing but the weakness of not knowing what his ability is and what are his flaws. So here you should just tell your weakness as strength. You have to convert your weakness as strength. Don't tell weakness as I'm lazy, I get up late in the morning, or time management and all those things. Instead, you need to convert that into a strength. How to convert it? One example is this. Another example, what I would like to say is you need to sell that if you do not complete work on time, you are not satisfied. You will be unhappy. So the person can notice that your weakness is nothing but your strength. How is that? You want to work on. When you speak about your weakness and when you say you want to work on, and work on for the betterment, your weakness can be converted to strength. Instead, if you directly tell something like you're lazy or something, laziness is very difficult to improvise. So that would be another weakness, I would say. Next, about the company. About the company, search about the company, Google about the company, and you know what are the things and where you fit in that you're supposed to say. So not much about it. This I already told you. Admit that you have no experience, especially for freshers, because everywhere they ask for experience, especially for freshers. You just need to say your academic strength. And academic strength is nothing but some internships or some part-time jobs or some stronghold topics where you can speak about it. Okay. Next comes be smart, what I would like to say here. So this is about you and your interviewer. You might think it is 6, the person might think it is 9. So what he says is also right. What you are speaking is also right. So keep this picture in your mind when you go for an interview so that you'll have a lot of patience to understand and deliver rather than just deliver and then later understand. So there's a difference between delivering and understanding and delivering. So this is the picture what you're supposed to be, you're supposed to keep in mind. So everything what you say is right for you. Also, everything what the interview says is also right for him. So very, very important. Next, when you're smart, you need to focus, you need to believe in yourself. This is usually what you see everywhere, the picture, the cat looking in the mirror, but reflection is a lion. So once you believe in yourself that you can do, you have a lot of ability, you will do for sure. So moving forward, I would like to speak something about group discussion here, because group discussion is part of an interview. Because just to streamline people, we make use of group discussion here. I just put the definition there, but what I would like to discuss here is, you know what is group discussion. Most of the candidates know what is group discussion, but if a topic would be given like this, something like this, one example I would like to share, where there is a company, and then the owner of the company is looking for a strong candidate for the manager post. Okay. Group discussion, when I say, usually candidates search, just for the sake of the example, search all the topics on the internet for group discussion like love marriage versus arranged marriage, politics, and all the stuff's happening. But need not be the topic exactly for group discussion. A case scenario can be given. Regarding the case scenario, I would like to speak something here. Let us see, maybe later we can discuss. But I would like to throw a question here. A person, owner of the company, is looking for a strong candidate to be the manager of the company. But there is already an assistant manager who has worked for more than 15 years, and the entire company know that assistant manager would be promoted to manager. Common sense, general fact, and usually that is what is happening everywhere. Okay, so a general assistant manager who has worked for 15 years has to be promoted to be the manager. But the owner of the company will not appoint him as a manager. Instead, he'll go for IIMs, he'll search for a CAT topper, as well as a person who has excelled in MBA, and the final year MBA student, a fresh candidate. He would like to go there and search and appoint him as a manager of the company. Now, the question for discussion is the boss right in doing so? And I say, is the boss right in doing so? What does it mean? If it is yes, yes, the boss is right in doing so because he wanted the fresh candidate over there. No, he is not right in doing so because the assistant manager, the entire company knows that the assistant manager will be promoted to a manager. He has worked day and night for the company, provided the shift day and night, or else just a day, I would like to say. So here the question arises. Now, some tips and tricks, some topics, some ideas, what I would like to say from the for perspective is nothing but if I say, yes, the boss is right in doing so, then I would like to say he wanted fresh mind, young, energetic person, active person, latest technology oriented person, and a person who is looking for another 15 years. So these are all the topics what you can speak if you are going for the topic. If you're going against the topic, I would like to say that the trust factor is lost in the company. So they will be demotivated. When a person who has given his best work for 15 years in the company, and if he is not given a respectable position, a promoted position, then the trust will be lost, loyalty will be lost, and it will set a wrong example to the other employees, thinking that any number of years you work, you will not get a manager post. So the negative impact will be more. So this positive impact as well as the negative impact, very important. And in a group discussion or a debate, you cannot speak on both. If you go for a place and if you have a coffee, and after having coffee, you cannot say that the tea would have been better if I had tea. So just you need to accept what you say, and you need to defend and say that you are the right person at that situation. So that is one thing very important. So such kind of scenario topics rather than something like versus like two topics, some political topics or some topics where we can say either the education system is good or bad. All those things are topics which I've been asking for years, but be prepared for a session where you can create about happening steps, the latest happening steps. And that is very, very important. You're going to meet an important interview, and you find a person who is lying on the road, and you're supposed to just pick that person and admit to the hospital. If you admit to the hospital, you will be late to the interview. A question arises: should you stop and admit there, or should you just neglect the humanity part and just move, being on the selfish side to attend an interview? What to do in that scenario? Such kind of discussion topics, you need to be prepared. when you attend a group discussion. So this is what I would like to say about the group discussion. Next comes your expectations when you are participating in group discussion. You need to be a team player, reasoning, leadership, flexible, initiative, creativity, thinking out of the box. So if there are a set of 12 members who are there for group discussion, do not think the first position is having advantage or the last position is having advantage. Every position has some advantage and disadvantage. The first person who would like to speak, he may not know anything to speak. That would be the disadvantage. And advantage is, again, he can speak anything, what comes to his mind, because no one has spoken that. Similarly, the last person who would like to see the last position is nothing but they would like to say, he might think that all the topics are right up, but do not have anything to speak. But the advantage is, if he is a good listener, he can listen to all the points from 11 students or the candidates sitting there, and then he can come out something totally out of the box as something creative, such a way that he would be the winner of that. Inspiring ability, speak something related to social aspect, provided something to the society, such a way that your words will be inspired to the person who is observing you. And listening and awareness of what's happening, what another 11 students have or candidates have spoken, that is very, very important. Moving on to the another wow factors, what I've told you. Speaking is important, do not sit silently. So you think that silence is golden? Yes, I mean, but at times and sometimes time can change you a lot and lot. So the golden minute, what you spend in the interview, that would be the turning point of your entire life. So you have to speak when the chance is given, and give everyone a chance to speak. See to it that you do not repeat it again and again and again in such a way that others will not be able to speak. Eye contact, I already told. So active listening skills has already been spoken, and do not interrupt anyone. You have spoken something. If someone is speaking something else, and if it matches what you have spoken, don't just with enthusiasm speak and spoil the entire group discussion. Have patience, have relax, and you're supposed to answer in a cool and calm and smart and quick way. Okay. Next, do not argue with anyone, and then keep the topic on track. To keep the topic on track, what I would like to say here is people divert by taking examples. If I say, do celebrities play a very important role in branding the products? Now, if I'm showing you a phone, and if I say I'm selling this phone, and if a celebrity or the person in the film industry come and sell this phone, what would be the impact? So, do a celebrity play a very important role in branding the products? If it is yes, yes. If it is no, you have to go for no. Why I chose this topic here? Because you have to keep the topic on track. You cannot take examples. Once you take examples, what happens is celebrities keep switching on their product. So if you name the celebrities, what happens is it will deviate, it will completely divert from the topic. So very important, don't divert from the topic, keep it on track. You don't expect the person who is conducting the group discussion to stop you and say you are out of the topic. Okay. Next, do not argue with anyone at word. Do not debate with anyone. You should know the difference between a debate and a group discussion. And do not repeat what has been said. Okay. The next one, yeah, coming to the other aspect of what I would like to speak is, other than the interview skills, is about verbal ability. So what are the different topics? First of all, in any competitive exam, you'll have quantitative aptitude, you'll have reasoning, logical reasoning, and you'll have verbal ability, reading comprehension. So in verbal ability, these are all the different topics which usually appears in any competitive exam, irrespective of whether it is a placement test or it can be any competitive exams like CAT, MAT, banking, or GRE or GMAT. So these are all the different topics which can come. I have put some exercise questions, some 4 questions at the end. Let us see how many we get it right. We will see. Okay. So regarding reading comprehension, close test, fill in the blanks, match the columns, all those things, basics you will know. But what would be a format? I've taken some questions from management aptitude test, which has happened in recent 2019 paper. How the questions will be there. You can look at the questions and get an idea of verbal ability questions. You know, and I expect you also to answer to the questions when I put forward that question when we discuss. Next comes number of verbal ability questions in various competitive exams. Like CAT has 34 questions, so CAT has 34 verbal ability and 34 quant and 32 logical reasoning. So 34 questions over there. And then MAT has 40 questions, out of 200 questions. Bank exam, P for preliminary exam, And for mains, I have mentioned it. So 30 marks, 30 questions, and 40 questions in the mains exam. GRE has 20 questions for computer-based test, and paper-based test 25 questions, and GMAT has 36 questions. So these are just a sample questions what I would like to show. I've taken some questions from MAT paper. But before going to the questions, let us see what are the tips and tricks you need to keep in your mind before attempting the questions. So before I show you the questions, I would like to just advise and suggest some points to keep in your mind. Those points are what would be the right approach. Okay, so we should know to do the right things the right way to get the right answer in a satisfactory approach. So what is a satisfactory approach? Read the question carefully. Usually when a passage is given, we need to understand the passage and then answer. But usually it would be the other way, where people search for questions, the keywords in the question, and they go back to the passage and see where are those keywords match, and then they connect those. It is not that approach we are seeing in our competitive exams. Do not guess the answers as option, because the options will be similar options. Next, in case of confusion, you need to start eliminating the incorrect options. So if it is A, B, C, D, then if it is completely out of the topic, then first eliminate that, so that your focus will be only on two options. Do not overcomplicate the question. You need to read it again, but if you keep on reading again and again and again, if the words are repeating, it will complicate. So read twice, understand the question, and then you're supposed to answer it. Now, with this approach, you need to be smart as always. What kind of things include variety in reading when you're practicing? See to it that you cover all the topics like politics, history, geography, and entertainment, international news, national news, all the topics, such a way that you're well versed with some knowledge regarding what's happening. Increase vocabulary, then question more. When you're practicing some questions, see to it that you ask questions to yourself. Do not answer just for the sake of answering and getting the answer. If you have 5 questions with respect to one paragraph, don't be in a hurry. Obviously, during exam, you have to answer to that, but in the process of practicing, don't be in a hurry just to get the answer to that question. Instead, if there are 5 questions in the passage, you need to frame another 5 questions on your own, thinking that what else might be asked. That is what I mean by question more and more. Avoid distractions, because some jumbled words might be there, some repeated words might be there. If you keep doing it here and there, and then you see the passage, you might be wondering which line I have gone through. You might be totally confused. So avoid distraction, nothing but focus. And practice makes people perfect. As you know, the more you practice, then you will be in a better position to answer. Now, my questions here, coming to the conclusion of my session. Before that, 4 questions I have put here, different questions. Fill in the blanks. I'm expecting people to type in the chat box with respect to the answers. We can tell, but just a format of this I have taken directly from 2019 question paper with respect to management aptitude test MAT exam. So same questions have been taken. There was a dash all about the palace, and the dash concerned with security guards. Looking at all the 4 options, it will be the right option. I'll not tell. Maybe after 10 seconds or 20 seconds, I would like to say. If you think about it, the first word given there out of 4 options, you need to fill in the first blank, and the second word you're supposed to fill in the second blank. So such kind of questions, at least you can expect 3 to 4 questions in a question paper with respect to fill in the blanks. Okay. So I hope you got the answer, and the answer here would be there was a silence all about the palace and quiet concerned the security guards. Because of the silence, what we're speaking about, the quietness will be matching over there, and the other options will not match. And next question there, the principal of the college dash stress on routine administration, dash dan on academic matters and examination reforms. So again, starts, terms will be similar. Starts, you can see option A and D, you have starts and then now begins, and further and even and rather and only. So all those things which will match at some extent, but if you're too good, then I don't think you have a problem. So this is the question paper problem. So you need to know that the answer here, maybe you're thinking, maybe I can give you some 10 seconds. The principal of the college dash stress, starts stress 100% no. Okay. Then if I keep saying no, then you'll get the answer. So I think you got the answer. The answer would be lays stress on routine administration rather than on academic matters. Okay. So the answer is C here. So another 3 slides of different questions, different topics. Choose the order of the sentence. So this is how it is, a chronological order, what I would like to say. A, B, C, D, E is there. So I would like to give you 30 seconds time for this, to have a look at this and come with the answer. So expecting you to type the answer in the chat box if you have come across A, B, C, D, E. Even the same question compared with 2019 and 2018 question paper. With respect to A, B, C, D, E questions, what you would like to choose here, which should be the first one, which should be the second one. So you need to see here out of A, B, C, D. Should I go for C, E, A, B, D? Do not look at the options and try. You will be totally confused. Instead, have patience to read each and every sentence. A, B, C, D, and E, which represents sentence over there. And then I think it's time to give you the answer. By now, I hope you have given the answer in the chat box. So 30 seconds would have been over. So the answer here would be option B, that is the second one, C, B, D, A, E. Okay. When I say C, B, D, A, E, first you're starting with, I'm not a fan of Indian weddings. And then you come from, even when I got married, you're just stressing on the sentence what you already made. I'm not a fan of Indian weddings. To give some importance to that sentence, you're saying, even when I got married 2 years ago, my first idea for a reception was a pool party. And then matching that, when you say about idea, see where the idea matches. Now after B, you go for D. In D, that idea, which idea? The idea for reception was a pool party. The pool party idea, of course, got rejected. So you're linking with B with respect to D. But we did tinker with quite a few traditions and wear typical wedding dress. Then comes A and D. So A, I refuse to wear traditional wedding clothes. Even then comes last E, even now. So that's the present one. So I'd like to go for C, B, D, A, E. So these kind of questions, maybe 3 or 4 questions would appear in the competitive exam. Last 2. Essence of the text. After reading a paragraph, you should know what would be the relevant conclusion, relevant inference. But when they're speaking about the essence of the text, what would be the appropriate sentence which would give weightage to this paragraph? So I hope you're reading. Another 20 seconds time for you to read it and then think about the best out of the rest. And when they say about the essence of the text, all might lead to the right context as well as the right conclusion, but you should know to choose the best out of the rest. So with respect to this paragraph, most of the person have average intelligence quotient IQ. You cannot consider with respect to this paragraph. Motivation and training can improve the performance of the average employee. Yes, that would be option. Option B would be right. C, success is a rare commodity. So success is a branch over there. Organization, rare commodity. You cannot come to the conclusion because there might be so many commodities which might be doing the same case. So D, a good organization transforms its average worker into a star performer. You can see there in the last lines, the purpose of the organization is to enable a common man to do uncommon things. So obviously, from average to be the best, that is what people would like to see. So I can see some answers A also there, but good enough. But I will go for option D as the answer. So option D is a good organization transforms its average worker into a star performer. So very good that people have answered. But again, as I told, all the 4 options are the right options, but they ask you to choose the best out of the rest. And the answer which was given in the last question paper solution was option D. So we will go for option D. Last one, but not the least one, because this also matters a lot. The phrase, choose the option which best expresses the meaning. Again, everything might relate. Again, you choose the best of the rest, but with respect to the underlying word. So back to the drawing board. Our marketing plan is not working. So I guess it is back to the drawing board for us. So what do you mean by back to the drawing board? You need to go back. You need to start right from the scratch. I think this would be a little easier one out of 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe this would give you a better idea. Then, so going to the meeting room to discuss a problem, it's not exactly. Discuss a problem is different. Starting right from the scratch is totally different. So I'll give you 20 seconds time. Last 20 seconds for the last question here. So back to the drawing board, using drawing board to discuss a problem in detail? Actually, 100% no. But still, this question has been appeared in the competitive exam. So you should be aware, achieving a solution to the problem on the drawing board, no. So any answer here? Maybe I think, yes, very good. I got the answer as 2 option. Excellent. You answered. Keep up your spirit. The answer is 2. Starting all over again after the failed attempt. That is what I mean by starting right from the scratch. Okay. So this is what, just a sample question. These are the sample questions. With respect to this, maybe I would like to say big thank you for your time as well as your interest shown. And regarding verbal ability, you need to know some basics about the topics what I was told. And interview skills, it comes with experience. People who clear in first round of interview is great, but usually they let more number of interviews to gain experience. Different interviews ask different questions. So anyways, I would like to say that you need to believe in yourself, and I wish you great success. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Abhilash. There are 3 questions to you. The first one is, I'm an English teacher. Can I conduct a mock interview in the class?
Yes, of course, you can conduct mock interviews. That would be a great suggestion from my side also, so that the person who go for an interview, usually the final year students, usually what we expect is a separate placement training for the final year students, and instead of a separate placement training for a final year student, that would be great. Being an English teacher, as one of the, if there are some 52 hours or 50 hours of course curriculum, maybe when you design the subject itself, you can schedule some number of hours separately for mock interview. But for mock interview, if there is a class of 60 students or 80 students or 100 students, I understand that it is impossible to conduct, but at least you can just group in the interested students and show a demo interview. That is what we call as mock interview. Not for all, but maybe for some. But with that interest, I'm expecting other students or candidates also to join that session. Yes, yes.
Your second question is, when we start answering in an interview, we remember all the courtesies, the do's and the don'ts. But when we face difficult questions, we forget all this. So how to maintain all these throughout the interview?
Yes. Now, as I told, that you have to be mentally prepared to expect the unexpected. That is what I told in the session. Keep in mind, expect the unexpected. Do not expect the interview to be a very good interview, and do not expect that you are getting a job. Your attitude should be positive. Your approach should be positive. But what matters is the reality. You should be prepared for the plan B. What if I do not get selected? What is the next plan? Be prepared. But that should not be taken as for granted, thinking that let this interview just go, let me try for the next interview. No, your attitude should be the right attitude, but you're prepared for the worst case scenario. So what I would like to suggest is, since due to all these sessions as well as your inputs, what you have gained these many years, you know what would be the question, what will not be the question. And obviously, every human being is unique. So even if I say some 10 to 15 questions, I'm sure there will be some questions which is asked out of the box if the interviewer is a creative thinker. Okay. So what I would like to say is, just have patience, remain calm and cool. If you know the answer, say it, do not twist it. If you do not sit, if you do not know, just say you do not know. Okay. But my suggestion is, to give best, you need to practice the most. Usual questions, what has been asked these many years, the same thing will be asked usually. So only thing, the answer to your question would be patience, patience, and patience with a smile on your face.
The last question for you. Many a times interviewers ask students to explain the asked questions on the whiteboard. So during these times, how do we stand in such situation?
Okay. So usually it is to see whether you have focused on what questions have been asked so far, or you're just simply answering to the questions. Okay. So in such a situation, first you should know that first of all, focus is important. And any human being, maybe the interview might be something like 15 to 20 minutes maximum. So I hope the memory is good enough to focus on what has been asked. And when you're standing, or suppose there are two things maybe I can take from this question, either the physical stand when you're supposed to write on the board and your mental stand. Mental stand is yes. Now the person has asked me to present something, so you have to shift gears. Okay, that would like I would like to call as a mental stand. When I say about the physical stand, do not directly jump into and start talking about something. I would like to say that, sir, could I take the opportunity to explain to you, or madam, could I take an opportunity to explain? So if you want to stand, I don't know what exactly the situation there, what exactly would be the scenario there. Based on that, you're supposed to respond. So I'd just like to conclude with respect to this question, situation where if I keep thumbs up bottle as well as a water bottle, when you just open the lid of the thumbs up can, the gas comes out. Okay, that is a reaction. What is happening there? Then you can think thumbs up. Okay, but when when you keep a water bottle, even if you shake the water bottle, when you open the lid of the water bottle, water will not come out. Water will be there. So you need to stay calm and cool and relaxed and just respond, not react. This is what I like to say.
Okay, there's one more question. How to overcome hesitation? Many candidates hesitate, so how to overcome that?
Yes. Now, to overcome hesitation, first of all, we'll go. The last question says going to the drawing board. That is nothing but going from scratch. If you're coming out of the college as a final year student, here you need to attend some training sessions where you need to be the person with self-interest you're supposed to present. You are supposed to go across a lot of mock interviews, as well as you're supposed to present in front of at least some 50 to 60 people. And people who are in the second year of their graduation or the pre-final, what I call, of your graduation, if it is an engineering course, maybe the third year, I would like to say, you need to have a practice in the college curriculum as well as the course curriculum that a person has to come and speak and face the crowd. So fear will be completely taken away, as well as you will not hesitate to answer any question. It should be like, it should not be, if you, as I usually tell, you cannot be a frog inside the well. If you go swimming, you cannot go and jump into the ocean to swim also, but you can go at least to swim in the swimming pool. That is what I would like to say. So for hesitation, again, you need to practice speaking to people. You need to attend some mock interviews. You need to face the crowd. But hesitation will run away. Yes.
Thank you, Abhilash. That was a wonderful session. You have shared many practical tips on how to face interviews and how to write these exams. Thanks a lot. We come to the end of the webinar for today. There are some more questions that have been asked, basically to do with improving listening skills, writing skills, speaking skills. I hope to answer them tomorrow because we have already crossed our time today. Let me once again inform all the participants that tomorrow the webinar begins at 2 p.m. Indian Standard Time. It will go on till 4, and you will get a registration link today after 2 p.m. You need to register like you did for today's webinar, and then you will get a joining link to join tomorrow. And the feedback forms will be given to you later. After tomorrow's session, it will be sent to you. And once you respond to the feedback, and if you have attended on both days, you will be issued e-certificates. I hope you had a very fruitful listening today, because that's what your feedback says. Thanks a lot. We'll meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. Thank you.